All right. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. We are back. Continuing with our look at the annual Torah portion. We are right now in the book of Leviticus. This week's Torah portion is Tzav. Tzav, which is command. Tzav, if we look over at Leviticus chapter 6 and verse 9. Leviticus chapter 6, verse 9, that first word there is command. Command Aaron. That word command is tzava, which is to constitute, to adjoin, to appoint, to bid, to forbid, to give a charge, to command. And so when we think about the things that the Most High has commanded his people here, he is dealing with commanding Moshe to command Aaron and his sons to do the things that are necessary for the initiation processes of the priests. And so I want to go down to the final part of this portion, Tzav, and read some of chapter 8. If we go down to Leviticus chapter 8, let's read. Let's see here. Let's read from 1 to 13.
Leviticus 8:1. Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, take Aaron and his sons with him, and the garments, and the anointing oil, and the bull of the sin offering, and the 2 rams, and the basket of unleavened bread, and assemble all the congregation at the door of the tent of appointment. And Moshe did as Yahweh commanded him, and the congregation was assembled at the door of the tent of appointment. And Moshe said to the congregation, this is the word of Yahweh. This is the word Yahweh commanded to be done. So Moshe brought Aaron and his sons and washed them with water, and put a long shirt on him, and girded him with the girdle, and dressed him in the robe, and put the shoulder garment on him, and girded him with the embroidered band of the shoulder garment, and with a tie, it tied the shoulder garment on him, and put the breastplate on him, and put the Urim and the Timon in the breastplate, and put the turban on his head. And on the turban, on its front, he put the golden plate, the set-apart sign of dedication, as Yahweh had commanded Moshe. And Moshe took the anointing oil and anointed the dwelling place and all that was in it, and set them apart. And he sprinkled some of it on the slaughter place 7 times, and anointed the slaughter place and its utensils, and the basin and its base, to set them apart. And he poured some of the anointing oil on Aaron's head, and anointed him to set him apart. And Moshe brought the sons of Aaron, and put long shirts on them, and girded them with girdles, and put turbans on them, as Yahweh had commanded Moshe.
Okay, very good. Hold on. Let's add to that down to 14 down to just 17, just so
17,
we can get
okay.
out there.
And he brought the bull for the sin offering, and Aaron and his sons laid their hands on the head of the bull up for the sin offering, and it was slain. And Moshe took the blood and put some of the horns of the slaughtering place all around with his finger, and cleansed the slaughter place. And he poured the blood at the base of the slaughter place and set it apart to make atonement for it. And he took all the fat that was on the entrails and the appendage on the liver and the 2 kidneys and their fat, and Moshe burned them on the slaughter place. And the bull and its skin and its flesh and its dung he burned with fire outside the camp, as Yahweh had commanded Moshe.
Okay, very good. So it's interesting. Again, we talked a little bit about this on Wednesday for our midweek Torah study. But the continuation of the end of this portion here, the rest of chapter 8, deals with Moses consecrating and anointing and operating as the priest for the initiated priests. He does this for the rest of the chapter. And I thought it was interesting that when we look at this, we're able to see where Moses is basically showing us a picture of Messiah, I would say here. Because when you think about Moses, he's anointing the priests. The thing that Moses is doing is the thing that these priests that are being anointed right now, whenever the next priests come up behind them, one of them is going to operate as the high priest and do this thing that Moses is doing to the next people coming up. And so he's starting this whole process, Moses is. However, these things never happened to Moses. Nobody came and anointed Moses' head. Nobody poured oil on Moses' head to anoint him. Nobody qualified Moses to be the one in order to do all of these things. I mean, except for the Most High. The Most High, of course, did in fact qualify him. But it's like he goes through these great lengths to do all of these preparations for the high priest. And it's interesting when we think about even where in the book of Hebrews, when it talks about the priesthood according to the order of Melchizedek, and it talks about the fact that the earthly high priest had to have a bull sacrifice for his sin before he went and sacrificed for the sin of the people. Except Moses didn't have that. So it's almost as if the first person that we see that's operating in the office of the priesthood of Melchizedek, besides Melchizedek, is Moses. He's this priest, the high priest. He's operating. He sanctifies the whole everything, including the high priest. And so I thought that it was interesting when we look at this process here that it goes through, and it helps for us to be able to look at Moses and see within the works of Moses this anointed individual who is Moses, who kind of stands as this picture of Messiah. Because he comes and he is this Messiah, I'm saying, is this anointed one who he was anointed by the Most High, but nobody really seen that part.
Yeah.
Like it was something that happened. It was spoken of by John the Yochanan, the immersive. But it's like he has this set apartness. He has this identity that becomes revealed, but it's not something that we see kind of passed on to him. Like Moses, right? We don't see, Moses didn't inherit any mantle from anyone. He was specifically chosen by the Most High, and he was the beginning of the whole situation. And so it's interesting when we look at, this, to me, I thought this was interesting when we look at this whole initiation of the high priest by Moses, who was really the uninitiated. And when we think about, again, the office, the king priest, who is Melchizedek, we see that picture of the king priest with Moses. Partially. I mean, because Moses, of course, had a mother and a father and all of that. But it's like we see pictures, images of this Melchizedekian priesthood with Moses. I just thought that was something that was worth mentioning. Okay. Does anyone have any questions, thoughts, comments about any of this week's Torah portion? Okay, very good. All right, so there is much more that could be said about this week's Torah portion, and it can be accessed through the link that will be in the description.